नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Srimad Bhagavatam is our best friend, is a treasure which helps us to distinguish reality from illusion and to be on the right path of Krishna Prema. Thank you for joining me in this study of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have just concluded chapter 23, where Devahuti is getting ready to let Kardama move on to go further into his next stage of renunciation. And so we stopped at, like a recap of our reading, we stopped at Devahuti wiping her tears and lamenting that she hasn't been religious enough and she hasn't been attached to devotional service of Krishna. She didn't develop detachment, and she hopes to become fearless. She hopes to become free from material bondage, and she laments that she hasn't attained that, even though he has been her husband. Kardama has been her husband. She still feels that she hasn't taken full advantage of it, and she's a little bit regretful about it. So now in the next chapter, we will see Kardama's renunciation. Would you like to start reading? Mataji Rasa, chapter 20.
Chapter 24, Kadama's renunciation. Besieged by his wife, Kadama remains with her for some years, after which they conceive a son named Kapila, a divine incarnation. Kadama then leaves for the forest where he attains supersoul realization. Devahuti dropped to her knees and clasped her husband's feet. "My lord, please be merciful." The sage gently lifted her. He remembered Vishnu saying that he would take birth as their son. "Dear princess, do not be disappointed with yourself. You are actually praiseworthy." Devahuti covered her face with her hands and shook her head. How? She had squandered so many years in material enjoyment. Kadama's voice was soothing. "My dear wife, Vishnu will shortly take birth as your son." Devahuti looked up at her husband in disbelief, her face streaked with gall. Kadama clasped her hands. "Continue to worship the Lord with great faith. Control your senses, observe religious principles, and give in charity. Pleased with your worship, Vishnu will appear from your womb. As a son, he will spread my fame, and he will vanquish your misery by teaching you spiritual knowledge." Devahuti's face lit up. Kadama was a great Prajapati. His words could not be false. With great determination, she began to worship Vishnu, knowing him to be the supersoul within the heart. Months turned to years as both husband and wife performed severe austerities and worship. Then, early one morning, before daybreak,
Hi Krishna, I'm sorry, something happened to my network. I got disconnected.
it's okay.
Mm,
Yeah.
sorry. Then now I logged in from my phone. Okay, let's continue. Mm, yeah, I think I stopped hearing at
There were these
charity.
face lit up. Was it here? No.
I heard till charity like that till there. Give it and give
Charity.
charity. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Pleased with your worship, Vishnu will appear from your womb. As our son, he will spread my fame and he will vanquish your misery by teaching your spiritual knowledge. Devahuti's face lit up. Kadama was a great Prajapati. His words could not be false. With great determination, she began to worship Vishnu, knowing him to be the super soul within the heart. Months turned into years as both husband and wife performed severe austerities and worship. Then, early one morning before daybreak, as Kadama stood half immersed in the Saraswati, reciting prayers, he received a divine revelation that Vishnu had entered his semen. Soon after, Devahuti gave birth to a golden haired boy. Seeing the effulgent child, both husband and wife knew he was Vishnu. Devahuti marveled how a mere mortal like her could give birth to the Supreme Lord. Kadama told her that Vishnu is within everyone's heart and sometimes he appears from his devotee just as fire dormant within wood springs forth. At the time of Vishnu's birth, the gods caused rain clouds to sound like musical instruments. Gandharvas sang the Lord's glories, and Apsaras danced in joy. Crowding the sky, celestial showered flowers, all directions, the seas and rivers, and everyone's minds became peaceful. Brahma arrived, accompanied by his sons, the four Kumaras, Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrigu, Vishishta, Atharva, and Narada. Alighting from his swan airplane, he said, "We have come to offer homage to Lord Vishnu, who has appeared from Devahuti's womb. He has descended in a purely spiritual body to explain Sankhya Yoga, the complete method of understanding matter and spirit." Kadama ushered Brahma and the sages into the palace where the Devahuti was nursing her newborn son. On seeing the baby, they immediately fell flat in obeisance, related Devahuti three times. With a joyful heart, Brahma offered prayers glorifying the Lord's future activities in that incarnation. He then praised Kadama for his great devotion and good fortune in becoming Vishnu's father. Humbly prostrating himself before Brahma, Kadama said, "My Lord, I am your humble servant." Brahma affectionately raised him, "My dear son, by following my instructions without duplicity, you have worshipped me properly." Kadama touched his father's feet and led him to an ornate seat. Sitting comfortably surrounded by his celestial sons and Devahuti, Brahma instructed Kadama to bring his 9 daughters into the assembly. While they waited, Brahma looked at each of his sage sons, his eyes lingering on the four Kumara brothers. All sons should render service to their father exactly in the manner of Kadama. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying, "Yes, sir." The four Kumaras, appearing as young boys of 5, lowered their eyes, accepting their father's gentle rebuke.
Okay, we'll pause there. This is mm, a lesson about it's not about which ashram we are in that makes us superior to our spiritual advancement. It's actually about following the instructions of the spiritual master. And in this case, Brahma is like spiritual master to Kardama, and he followed the instructions. Sometimes we may think, no, I know better. I want to be renounced. I don't want to marry, or I want divorce, or whatever self-will ideas we have. We tend to take on that as our shelter. But taking the instructions of the spiritual master is the best shelter, because it pleases Krishna and it pleases the Guru Parampara. And here in this, we can see Brahma looking at Kumaras. Sometimes we want somebody to learn a particular point. We want somebody to get a particular point. So then we look at that person to make sure that they understood. So like that, Brahma is looking at Kumaras, because Kumaras, They decided to remain as boys so that they don't have to get married. Mm. So again, it's always, I mean, in fact, Kardama is more glorified. It is considered that Kardama was on another level of pure devotional service, which the Kumaras will never reach. Because Kumaras, they kind of became impersonalists in the beginning, although later on they did become devotees. But still, it wasn't like a full development. It's ironic that they decided to remain as kids, and also spiritually, their development was kind of stunted. So, this is a very important consideration that we should let Krishna decide for us what is the best next step for in our life, and not to control it, not to try to control our plans. And sometimes we fear, for example, we may fear, oh, I don't want to get hurt by this and that. And therefore, we try to arrange ourselves in this way and that way. We should do it in Sattva-guna. We should do it like having faith in Krishna, that this is Krishna's plan, not to depend on material plans, but to depend on Krishna. So the faith should remain on Lord, because He is reliable, not on this world and our plans and things like that.
Yeah, and we cannot even judge like what is best for us.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And how can we
We
judge for others, right? Sometimes we judge others. Oh, why this person is getting married? Why this person is taking sannyas or whatever? But we don't
Yeah.
know what can be the best for the other person.
Absolutely. Yes.
And sometimes we may see, oh, somebody is married, and we think, oh, that person is married, they may not be making much advancement. This other person is sannyasi, he's making a lot of advancement. No, that's our illusion. We do not know. And ashram has nothing to do with this spiritual
We can't
advancement.
check anybody's advancement, how advanced one
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
exactly. Okay, I can continue a little bit.
Yeah.
Just then Kardama's 9 daughters entered. In the full bloom of youth, they were extremely beautiful. They had lotus petal eyes like their mother, long curly locks of jet black hair, and shapely limbs. As they came before Brahma and the sages, they glanced down demurely. Kardama introduced each girl by name: Ala, Anasuya, Shraddha, Avibhu, Gati, Priya, Khyati, Arundhati, and Shanti. On their father's instruction, they touched Brahma's feet and then those of the assembled sages. In turn, Brahma and the sages blessed each one. Then they stood shyly either side of their mother. Brahma, who had long been concerned how to increase the universe's population, radiated joy on meeting Kardama's 9 charming daughters. All these thin-waisted girls are certainly very chaste. I am sure they will expand this creation in varied ways by their powerful descendants. Indicating the celestial sages who had accompanied him, Brahma said, please give your daughters in marriage to these learned scholars. Take into consideration the girls' temperaments and interests. My dear son, by doing so, you will spread your fame throughout the universe. Brahma turned his attention to Devahuti and her son. O Kardama, I know that the original Supreme Lord who fulfills all living entities' desires has appeared from Devahuti's womb by his spiritual energy. You should name him Kapila. He motioned to Devahuti to come closer. Gazing at the baby, he said, how gorgeous! Just see his golden locks, lotus petal eyes, and marks of lotus flowers on his feet. Smiling at Devahuti, he said, your son will teach scriptural knowledge and its practical application. Those who understand his instructions will uproot the deep seated desire for material enjoyment. My dear daughter of Manu, in a previous incarnation, this child killed the powerful demon Kaitaba. In this appearance, he will similarly cut the knots of your ignorance and doubt. Then he will travel the world. Lord Kapila, Lord Kapila will be the best of all preferred souls, all perfected souls, sorry. Lord Kapila will be the best of all perfected souls, approved by the Acharyas, expert in disseminating the truth. He will increase he will increase your fame far and wide. Brahma rose to leave, along with Narada and the Kumaras. Bowing low, Kardama bid farewell to his father as well as the 5 sages accompanying him. He knew that all 5 had accepted vows of celibacy and were not interested in marriage. The other 9 sages remained behind, waiting for Kardama to select a wife for each of them. As the first rays of the sun lit up the sky, a gentle breeze began to blow, sending petals from the parijata tree blossoms fluttering to the ground. Lotuses slowly opened from their night's sleep as birds began their morning chores, filling the air with their melodies, as the sight and sounds of new dawn manifested around them. Maitreya took a little time to stretch himself, while Vidura took the opportunity to collect water from the nearby pool. When both men had slaked their thirst, they continued their conversation. Maitreya said, after Brahma's departure, Kardama consulted his daughters as to their choice of husband. The girls carefully considered the character and interest of each sage before selecting their partners. Those 9 couples later populated the world. After telling Vidura which sage married which girl, Maitreya said, after the marriage ceremony, Kardama gave each couple sufficient wealth for life. Vidura reflected, it is interesting that Shanti married Atharva. Is that why we chant Shanti at the beginning of end of Vedic rituals? Maitreya nodded. Yes, that is correct. As the wife of Atharva, who gives us all the hymns and rituals of different sacrifices, Shanti can ensure their success. Maitreya continued with his narration. Taking Kardama's permission, each sage joyfully departed with his wife for his own hermitage. Vidura said, please tell me more about Kapila. Maitreya explained that as with the celestials, Kapila grew to maturity shortly after his birth and left to meditate in a nearby forest. Listen now to what transpired between Lord and Kardama. Okay, we will pause there for today. This is so interesting, especially about I think we should go here, the appendix, to see who married who here. So husbands of Kardama's daughters. Kala married Marichi. Anusuya married Atri. I mean, these are all great sages, right? And then Shraddha married Angira. Avirbhu married Pulastya. Gati married Pulaha. Kriya married Kratu. It's kind of rhyming, huh? Kriya and Kratu. Kyati married Brigu. Okay. Brigu Muni is very famous, right? Anundati married Vashishta. Arundhati. And Shanti married Athara. So now that we have memorized the names, next session will be a quiz. Who married who? And then also there will be
I could take the screenshot, only once only I have taken.
will also,
Six of them, yeah. Kriya and Kratu. Still.
then we will also look into their children.
Yeah. Can you show me the other one also? Till Kriya after that? Yeah, 1 minute. Let me take it. Yeah, sent. Taken. Thank you. Yes, I'll take it.
So let's be ready for the quiz.
Okay.
So thank you very much for joining, and we'll
Thank
continue
you,
tomorrow.
Madhvi. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Masatini.